Story this week in the latest move in pro-democracy protests that have rocked Hong Kong for the past 3 months. The region's leader, Carrie Lam, announced this week that her government will take 4 actions to initiate a dialogue to find a way out of the current impasse. She also announced the full withdrawal of the bill that would have allowed extradition to mainland China and which sparked the protests in the month of June. However, the activists say that their protests will continue until the government responds to all of their 5 core demands, and more demonstrations are planned for the coming weeks. Meanwhile, the protests have also worsened an already bad economic situation in Hong Kong.
The government will formally withdraw the bill in order to fully allay public concerns. The Secretary for Security will move a motion according to the rules of procedure when the Legislative Council resumes.
Hong Kong leader announcing the withdrawal of the controversial extradition bill that has ignited months of protests and plunged the territory into its biggest political crisis in decades. The bill would have allowed criminal suspects to be extradited to mainland China from Hong Kong. The bill had been suspended, but protesters wanted it to be withdrawn completely. Lam elaborated on 4 actions that her government will take to find a way out of the current impasse for Hong Kong.
Our responses to the 5 demands have been made with full consideration of different constraints and circumstances. I recognize that these may not be able to address all the grievances of people in society. However, should we all think deeply whether escalating violence and disturbances is the answer, or whether it is better to sit down to find a way out through dialogue?
But protesters vowed to continue demonstrating so long as the government refuses to investigate police's abuse of power. Just hours after the announcement, dozens of people shouted slogans and set up makeshift barricades outside a police station in the Mong Kong district, demanding Lam meet all of their political demands.
It's too late and too slow now. In the past 2 months, with our strike and protest, we're strongly aware of the crackdown of human rights. No matter more than 1,200 activists were arrested, more than 100 of our teammates were prosecuted.
Meanwhile, with protests entering their 3rd month, many businesses in the culinary hub and retail mecca are in deep trouble. The unrest has at times crippled key infrastructure like the airport and trains. Some businesses are considering leaving the city altogether. Hong Kong's chief executive Carrie Lam saying that the protests have hurt the economy more than the 2003 SARS epidemic and the 2008 financial crisis. Tourism, which accounts for about 5% of the city's GDP, has also taken a massive hit.
I think we're beginning to see the serious impact now, and I think it will begin to show up in the GDP figures further down the line. I think we should be concerned about that.
However, protesters say that corporate chaos and an economic downturn is just what they want, saying that freedom is much more important. Hong Kong has seen months of anti-government protests. The protests were sparked by changes to the extradition law, but have since then widened to include calls for an independent inquiry into police brutality and demands for greater democracy. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
It was a bruising